Today on the show, we have Tracy Cousineau from Real Estate Expert Advisors in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, Tracy has lived in the metro Atlanta area since 1980. She is a co-founder and broker of Real Estate Expert Advisors. Tracy has a proven successful track record of maximizing her clients' real estate needs since 1999. She specializes in many different sectors of real estate, including luxury homes, resales, new construction, foreclosures, short sales, land, and commercial. One of Tracy's greatest loves and responsibilities today is mentoring and training her high-powered, highly trained, full-time expert advisors. Tracy is the host of American Dream TV in all of the Atlanta area. Making a difference in the real estate community and industry is Tracy's true passion. She also has a soon-to-be-released book entitled $1 Million Trap. Now, please visit Tracy's website at tracycousino.com. Let me spell that for you. TracyCousineau.com. Tracy, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Really excited to have you. Gosh, you do so many things. You're an author, you're a television personality, you're a brokerage owner, and a realtor. That's a lot of hats. I only wear, well, I guess I wear two hats, but two hats is enough. You're like doubling the number of hats I wear. So you have way more going on than me. So we really appreciate your time. I would love, so our listeners always want to hear about someone's origin story. Like, how did they get to be this top producing broker? And let's start all the way at the beginning. So you've been in real estate really since 1999. Can you talk us through sort of why you got into real estate, how that happened, and how you started to grow your business?
So I kind of stumbled into it. I was in property management, getting out of high school, started in property management, and I would go around and travel, do new construction lease ups for a large A-plus property management company called Amley Residential. And
we have Amley here in Chicago as well. So
that's where corporate is, I remember.
Yeah.
But they taught me, being so young and all the right things. These are the colors you interview with. This is where your lapel pin. This is the hand you shake with. Like
Sure.
This is a firm shake. Like they taught me all of the foundations and the structure of developing into a professional career, right? And so I had a really crazy experience with a tenant, and it caused a lot of damage to our apartment community in the middle of the night, new construction. And
oh wow.
So after that, and having collect calls from jail and having to
oh
be
wow
to a divorce case and all that, it was just like, what is all of this nonsense? And so every night I would drive home and I would pass this community college, and there was this big sign lit up and it would say real estate course, real estate course. Yeah. And so every day it was like talking to me. And the more that I went through all of this stuff going on at the community, I was like, you know what, maybe this is a sign that this is where my next step is, right? So I signed up, and that was a Tuesday and Thursday night course, and I had a young child baby at home, and so it's hard working full time. And
yeah.
My husband at the time worked opposite shift than I did. So it was hard to balance, but there had to be a way, right? If that was
Sure.
my journey and that was the passion that I was headed towards, then, you work out the things that needed to be worked out. And so, that's kind of how I fell into it. At first I thought it was my niche, but then after I got through the Great Recession, I was like, yeah, no, this is my passion. This is what I do.
Now, when you were in property management, were you working with realtors as well that would come in and show properties?
Yeah.
And because a lot of times I know people that are either in-house leasing or property managers, a lot of times they see realtors come and go and they're like, I could absolutely do that and maybe even do a better job than some of the people that walk through the door and who are getting, 1 month's rent commission or whatever it might be.
Right.
Yeah. So I imagine that probably motivates a lot of people who are in-house to go, I could be independent.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there are a lot of, when I see resumes and I talk to agents and stuff, there are a lot of people that transform from the property management into residential real estate.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a natural progression, and it's that, but it's a scary leap too, because you're going from mostly probably a salaried style position to no safety net. You got to make this work.
Yeah.
But the good news is that, there's lots of people that have come before you, me, anyone else in this industry who has really paved the way and said, oh, just do it this way and you'll probably be successful. Like Emily taught you how to be successful at their company. So you started, now were you working yourself? Were you with a team when you first started? How did you get into the business?
So there weren't there weren't too many team structures back in 99. I wanted to work for a certain company at the time that was very pronounced
Sure.
brand at the time with this balloon. And that's what I thought. I was like, I'm that girl. I'm that balloon girl. Like, that's the company that I want to affiliate with because of the brand and the image.
Right.
And so that was difficult. I remember sitting in my real estate course and the instructor, Julie, going around asking everybody, what company are you hanging your license? Who's your sponsoring broker, blah, blah, blah. And so everybody was saying like all these mom and pop companies. And I'm like, and I say the balloon company.
The big name. Yeah.
The big name. And everybody starts to kind of giggle. And I was an introvert back then. And so I can remember sitting there. And I remember my chair was in the first row, the second chair over, and just feeling the heat of my face turning red and going, well, first of all, because they're all so much older than me in the class. And I'm like, well, first, what are they laughing at me?
Yeah.
What don't I know? And so they're like, oh, they don't hire new agents. Like, you have to have experience. That's the only way that you'll be able to, or you can find a team if there's, any in your area, and you can, they'll let you on that way. So there weren't a lot of teams. There might have been 3 or 4 teams under this whole branch, but it wasn't even like, no, if I'm going to be an independent contractor at that time, I'm going to try and figure it out. Right. But this was before internet, right? There was no internet. You were taking photos of homes by your Polaroid camera and doing the Polaroid dance out front and then like taping it to a piece of paper that you typed on. I mean, it was crazy. New agents have no idea, or for the last at least 15 years, times have changed so much that we have technology, thank goodness, and we can do a lot bigger and better things for our clients. But I remember just going, well, I'm not gonna let them laugh at me, and I need to go prove a point, right? And so I ended up going and working with the company. I cashed out my 401k and I paid them up front instead of in arrears and said, look, just give me 30 days. If I don't sell my first house in 30 days, I'm out. Like, I'm gone.
Wow. And by the way, I want to pause for a second because I want our listeners to understand, and they do understand what the significance of what you just said and the pressure. Because again, Tracy and I were talking about beforehand, I mean, we have lots of brokers at our own firm, and I would never tell anyone, oh, you could easily or sell a home within 30 days, unless your best friend is doing a cash purchase and it's closing in a week and it's already been, everything's already been done. That is an incredible goal to set for yourself. And did you actually achieve that?
I did in 10 days.
How did you do that? That is remarkable.
So I found an agent in the office who allowed me to market one of his listings in the Daily Post in our area, because that's how you advertise back then.
Sure.
You did the Journal, Constitution, or whatever, but we had a little county Daily Post, and he allowed me to put the listing in there, and I will never forget it. It was in a town called Lawrenceville. It was 170,000. It was a little white house, and I got a cash investor who wanted to purchase it with cash. And so it was
amazing.
A quick sale. So of course I stayed for many years until the Great Recession, and that office ended up having to close down. But it's learning that you shouldn't allow people to create your own journey and path for you. And that if you are strong about your beliefs on where you want to take yourself, I can't imagine where I would be today had I not gone through and started that journey there. I don't know where I would be today. And so things happen for a reason. And, for me, it was rules and things can change. And, it's time to change policies and stand up. That I didn't want somebody to determine my outcome. And I was really like headstrong on, this is where I want to be. Let me prove myself.
Wow. Well, you did within 10 days to prove yourself to a company that doesn't hire new brokers, to say, well, if I can sell a home in 10 days, I'd probably be valuable to your company. And they probably went, yeah, nobody does that. Nobody sells a home in 10 days.
Thanks for your $850. And
right.
we'll see wherever you go after this. Yeah, no.
That is incredible. And then once the recession hit and that office ended up closing, is that when you started your own company, or did you do did you have other moves in between?
Yeah, so we moved to another brand, and it just wasn't where we wanted to be. It was, the culture just wasn't what we were looking for.
Sure.
And then we just decided that it was time to open, and we know our core values, our culture, we're able to grow as we want to grow and implement what we want to implement. And, you know, we've been able to be an Inc. 500 company, or Inc. 500 company, and Inc. 5000 company, 3 years in a row. And,
wow,
it's created more opportunity.
That's incredible. The company I work for has made the Inc. 5000 a few times, and I know how difficult that is. But to also then make the Inc. 500 on top, that's incredible. In fact, let's talk about this, because some of our listeners and viewers are realtors in the Metro Atlanta area and might be looking for a firm that maybe the culture at their firm isn't exactly where they'd like it to be. So if there are agents, is there a certain type of agent you're looking for? So if any of our listeners are out there wanting to learn more about what you guys offer, you feel free to share that information.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. We're a little different. We work as a team together under the brokerage, but we supply all the marketing. We supply, the lead generation. We supply the appointments, the face-to-face appointments. We have an inside sales department. We have a home staging department. We have a marketing department. So everything runs hand in hand. We have boot camps. We have workshops. We have, weekly, right now, with the COVID, Zoom calls. We have different referral challenges. I mean, we're constantly trying to, help and grow agents to be the best. And it's, for me, here's 21 years of all the do's and don'ts. Yeah. And we just want you to go from wherever you're at today to create a better lifestyle for yourself. So any way that we can help you and help you grow the income that you would like, then definitely, it just helps, because marketing is tough. And especially agents just getting out of school, they don't teach you that kind of stuff.
Right.
They teach you that half of the stuff you're like 75%, I don't really even need to know. I'm gonna throw that book out because I just needed to pass a test. But they fail to explain how to actually get your feet on the ground and the things that you need to do. Because once you get through your sphere of influence, there's not many people left. And then what do you do now? Right. And so that's typically why it's, most agents that are new leave after the first year, or definitely after the second year, because they got through their sphere and they realized that it wasn't as easy as one would think, because there's this thing that we make so much money, but at the end of the day, it's, if you're hustling and if you have a brand image and you've continued to create and be the loudest marketer winning, then yes, you're going to have an abundance. But if you just don't have a direction and you need that direction, that's where we want to come in and help you with that direction.
Yeah. Or if you're just an agent that isn't good at marketing, but you're right, like excellent face-to-face, or you're a good paperwork person or a good CMA person, and you're like, God, I wish somebody would really help me lead generate or market my brand. And I applaud you, because here in Chicago, we have obviously hundreds of firms, and 99% of them do not provide those services, and probably same in Atlanta. And so the fact that you guys have a lead generation team, you have what are called ISAs, which is like an internal sales assistant, or something, but inside sales assistant. So these are people that qualify buyers and sellers and then pass them through to the realtor. That's huge. And I imagine it makes you guys very popular in the agent community. I know if we had that kind of service here, we would have, 3 times the number of brokers we have. So that's awesome.
I just know for myself, if I put myself in someone else's shoes, that's not what our biggest value is. It's face-to-face with our clients, and it's negotiating, and it's helping through the process that way. It's not sitting on the phone, and there's other people that can talk on the phone and that can do those things better, because I know I've been a busy agent out there before I was a broker and before we were mentoring and coaching. And I'd get to the next day and I'm like, oh gosh, I forgot to call this person back. Or, oh, a week ago, I was supposed to call this person, or I didn't follow up with this person. And so if I go to an appointment, I already have somebody else that's going to continue to nurture if they weren't ready. And so it just, yeah, just helps the process a lot smoother.
And I want to talk about the television show, American Dream TV. Tell us a little bit about what that is and how that came to be and you know, how people can watch that.
Yeah, so right now it's on Amazon, Redco, Apple TV. I think it's on a smaller version of maybe CBS. But you're able to, there's an episode that runs every month. There's a national show and a show for the city.
Got it.
Basically, you're just sharing the lifestyle. It's really community. It's opening up and learning about, like if I had lake homes, it's learning about the lake, right? And all about the lake and maybe the restaurants on the lake or contractors and that stuff all around the lake. And then at the end of the episode, then we feature a couple of our listings that would be on the lake. We did a segment on pools. So it's meeting with a contractor and going over the different stages of pools. I mean, everybody right now is doing staycations, right? So it's creating that resort lifestyle in your backyard. And so it's just opening up to new ideas for the general public in the community to say, oh, that's a good idea. Or I didn't think about that, you know, since we're not traveling. So it's just really just a way of really getting into the community.
I love it. Well, I love it. Well, everyone should look up, you know, in their apps for their streaming services, Amazon, look up American Dream TV if you're in the Metro Atlanta area, and you will see.
Yeah, and if you're in another big city and you're interested in more information about American Dream, you know, reach out to me, and I can give you some more information on how to bring American Dream to your city.
Let's talk about your book that's coming up, $1 Million Trap. I know nothing about this book, so I want to learn along with the rest of the audience. So tell me and the audience about what this book is and why you wrote it.
So I started a women's group called Women Elevation. And that kind of started, I was at a big conference, Traffic and Conversion in San Diego a couple years ago. And I noticed that every time there was a break that we would go to the bathroom, the men's line was like really, really, really long. And if you know, the female line is usually the line that's really, really long.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just kept noticing, I was like, this is really weird. This, like, I've never seen this before. And I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, a restaurant, a conference, a concert, you know, wherever, it's always the female line that's the longest, right? So
without exception, no exception, always that way, except this one instance. Yeah.
Yes. I'm like, what is it? And so then I'm like, let me try a different bathroom. Like, let me go a different way.
Yeah.
Same thing. And I'm like, where are all of my ladies? Like, where is everybody at? Where are the women at? Where are the women entrepreneurs at? And so I just kept my wheels spinning, like, you know, who can I help? You know, why aren't we showing up? What's going on? And so we created Women Elevation, and it started really small, where I would have little retreats and workshops and help female women, you know, create a business or find out where they were stuck at to help them elevate it further. And then we started a brand on social media at Women Elevation on Facebook. And then we just started growing that community and then just having bigger, you know, retreats and that kind of stuff. So when COVID came and we're not able to really have these retreats because we're social distancing and all this kind of stuff, how could I still help more women, you know, get these businesses rolling or find out where they're stuck at, or, you know, you're stuck in this like burnout mode because you keep driving and driving and driving and driving, but nothing's changing and you're burnout or you want to quit. And if it's your passion, then we truly need to get you pushing through it to get to the next stage. And so it was just like, hey, I can talk to so many people, and I'm like, yeah, I've already been through that. Yep, I did that. Yep, I did that. That's my background. Yep, that's what my family went through. Yep, my brother was the same. You know, and so there's like so many things that God put in my path to create so much at that time pain, but I'm able to find a solution and opportunity now to say, hey, I've been in your shoes, but this is what I did, and these are the things that I did to create where I'm at today. And so it was just really just sharing that to help people get through and get to the end result of where they're headed.
So you created this women empowerment group, and it's a support network with education married to it. And then how did this develop into a book?
Really just wanting to tell the story that you're capable of what you put your mind to. And, you know, I've had the haters, I've had the people that said, you know, that didn't support and, you know, oh, they'll never make it, or, you know, this won't ever happen. And it's, if you keep listening to these little Martians, I always relay it back to, I think it was Fred Flintstone that had that green Martian on his shoulder
Yeah.
that always
Yeah.
was like, "Meh, meh, meh." And so that's like, if you just keep hearing it, you start to believe it.
Right.
And I I went through there. You know, I used to live the victim and the negative mindset.
Sure.
And now I'm like, no, there's a better way. There's positive ways, and there's so many different solutions and opportunities. You know, just surrender to all of that nonsense and grow. And that's, I mean, that's really what happened is, you know, I was in a really dark place during the Great Recession. A really lot of things happened in my life, and you know, you'll read it in the book, but it's like, if I can get through it, everyone else can get through it. And it's just believing in yourself and finding that your worthiness.
Yeah, I mean, peaks and valleys happen no matter what, right? So and I've always thought it's always our job is not to avoid the valleys, but just to learn how to cope with them effectively, because you know, they tend to be temporary. But you know, I'm dealing with, everybody deals with things all the time. We're probably, there's always something in our life that's in a bit of a peak and a bit of a valley, right? Like, if we're being honest, balance doesn't exist because something's always a little off, or something just hits you that you didn't expect or you had no control over. And then being able to persevere in the face of the challenge is certainly something I struggle with as well, along with, I think, most of us. But to realize that there is a path forward, despite in sort of insurmountable challenges, and especially in real estate. I mean, this is an industry that, you know, has a pretty low barrier to entry, right? It's a moderately difficult test that most people can pass if they study hard enough. But that's the easy part, really,
That's the
because,
easy
as you
part.
know. Yeah, the easy part's the test, and that's even really difficult for a lot of people. But then it's like, oh, now I have to run a whole business. Oh, that's pretty tough. And it takes, not, well, you had immediate success, but for a lot of agents, it takes a couple of years to
Totally.
really even feel
Totally.
like, yeah, and you know that, of course. And I would love for you to share, since you're a coach, you're a brokerage owner, you're a top producer yourself. You've got all this experience, and you see lots of agents come and go within your own industry. What advice do you have for agents that maybe they're feeling stuck right now? Maybe their sphere of influence is, you know, I would always argue that somebody's sphere of influence probably isn't as tapped out as they might think. I think most people probably don't do a great job of staying in touch with their sphere of influence, but let's assume that every one of our listeners has completely depleted their sphere of influence, and they're just like, because right now, and I'm sorry to keep talking, but I just want to give some context. Right now, interest rates are at a record low. There's a tremendous amount of activity, at least here in the Chicago market. I imagine the same in all of the Atlanta area. But there are agents that are still kind of scratching their heads going, things aren't really happening for me right now. Do you have advice any advice? What would you tell your agents who might be struggling?
You know, it's looking back at your database also. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's you know, thousands and hundreds of thousands of leads that we've, you know, have coming into different websites. There's buyers in there from 3, 4, 5 years ago, or sellers in there from 3, 4, 5 years ago, that if you go back and look at your notes of, maybe they weren't ready then, they weren't
Sure.
ready, you know, they said 12 months or 18 months, or they were just looking, you know, we convert a lot of business that way too. It's just going in there and playing in that area, we call it the pond, and just looking and seeing what's out there. And it's really, if it needs to be on your calendar, and you
Yeah.
really have to set that time aside, and know the best times to call, and the best, you know, and really know what you're talking about and saying to grab the attention. Because, you know, for instance, Zillow, you know, you're not the only agent getting that Zillow lead.
Oh,
But
no.
it's whoever had the best rapport, right? Rapport is
Right.
huge, and
Yep.
you can't just wing it. And unless you just are a professional conversationist, then why do you have these leads coming in unless there's value to it? And it's really providing your value. So if you show up, building rapport, educating the consumer, providing the value that they're looking for in every way possibly that you can to be the best agent, you're going to be the one that they call and the one that they want to show up to help them and represent them. So I think it's really just at the end of the day, showing up, making sure that you have time for it, and putting your heart and soul in it if that's what your passion is. If you're looking for it just to be something part-time, this is someone's largest investment. And that's just the way that I look at it is this is somebody's American dream and it is their largest investment. And I personally don't myself think that we should be doing something part-time on somebody's largest investment.
Right, right. You wouldn't want your financial advisor who's managing your 401k and all of your IRA and your taxable investments to be, I'm really an engineer and I do a little financial advising on the side. It's funny. We almost laugh at or an attorney, maybe a better example. Like, I want to hire you as an attorney, but really I'm a physician. I just do a little law on the side. You'd be like, well, I don't think I want to work with that person.
Oh, no.
That's a really, really smart way. And that isn't to suggest, of course, that people can't do it part-time, but to really think about, how much time do you have to devote to your client, and remembering that anybody can put it up on anyone can put a listing on the MLS. That's not the hard part. The hard part is all the work and education and handholding and just tireless hours to get that home sold or to get that buyer all the way through the closing process. And boy, that is not a part-time job. I mean, you can get lucky once in a while and things just magically happen and you don't have to do much, but that is not the vast majority of transactions. I think that's a strong point.
Right. But you have to also think that if they're working another job until 5 or 6 o'clock, then the other agent, they're required to now only be able to talk to you for certain hours.
Right.
You can only negotiate during certain hours. If there's an issue that happens, then you have to wait till those certain hours. So it's kind of like this whole entire process that just totally goes to a part-time issue. And the other agent that works full-time in that situation is the one doing all the work. And so I just don't, I think the best solution for that really honestly is refer them out and let somebody, get paid something for it. I think that's great, but let somebody else do all the hands-on where you're getting a referral for it, 25, 30% or whatever. But the person that you refer, the client that you referred is getting the true hands-on in the value. And I think that it's a win-win for everybody at that point.
Well, yeah, too. And if you're working part-time at this, I can't even imagine how you would do the marketing as an agent. How would you'd have to do it in the evening, and it would be challenging because, you have other responsibilities, especially if you have a family. It would just be, I think part-time is great if it's like, once in a while, my friend asked me to help him sell a home. Okay, fine. But to really try to make this into a career, because so many brokers think, well, I'm going to start part-time and then as it picks up steam, I'm going to transition. And I totally understand that logic. It makes sense logically, but I have very rarely, and I'm curious to get your opinion. And I'm not suggesting it can never happen. Of course it can, but very rarely have I ever seen somebody make that transition. I was curious if you have an opinion of that.
No, because, until you get in it and your feet get in it, you don't realize really what it's all involved. And you don't realize it's a very time consuming industry. And so if you only have a certain amount of hours, then how can you give it your all? And honestly, I don't know. I'm more of I look at the end result. And if I don't do a good job, could I risk getting in trouble for something that I did not have knowledge about? That I could not give the right education, about, and am I leaving myself up for risk, or am I leaving them up for failure? And, that's just me, but I'm sure that people make it work. I see it all the time. It's just really, it's hard. I do see a lot of part-time agents for years that once their children get older or they realize, hey, this isn't a part-time career, and they do go to full-time,
Sure.
So definitely, I do see it that way. I see more
Yeah, I
people
mean, it's one of those things where
versus staying. If they came in with that part-time feel, then they realize, hey, I can't balance this.
yeah, I agree. And yeah, it's and for me, I've always just been too lazy to get a part-time job on top of my regular job. So I've never thought of like, I'm going to add another part-time job, but real estate is very difficult to do part-time. It's certainly, I guess maybe if you're an investor, you're just doing your own stuff, fine. But it's very difficult. But what we would suggest is, think about whether you love real estate so much that you do want to make it your part-time job, and then find a firm, especially if you're in the Atlanta area like Tracy's, because they can help you with the things that you think, oh my gosh, I don't know enough people. Maybe I just moved to the area. I don't have a sphere of influence. Well, that's why you join a firm like Tracy's who says, hey, we can help with that because we understand that's the hardest part. And I think that's just an amazing, and that's where a lot of agents choose to go part-time because they don't see opportunities like the ones you present. So I'm really wanting to I'm sort of like making a huge deal about this because it is such a big deal that there is a firm that says, hey, we understand how scary it is. And we understand that the hardest part of this, look, the vast majority of people who leave this business, it isn't because they're making too many sales and they just can't handle it. It's because they're making too few sales. And so they're not sure where their next sale is. And I just want to give I just was thinking about this while you were chatting earlier, that if anyone is out there just wondering what to do today, and they're like, I know everything should be very busy. We obviously, in certain markets, at least here in Chicago as well, the inventory is very low, but activity is quite high. And if you're thinking, well, gosh, I'm not seeming to participate in that, I have two quick suggestions. I'm curious, Tracy, to get your opinion on this. But for everyone that's renting, you need to be talking to them right now about, there's never been, I don't know if there's never been a better time, but this is about as good a time as you'll see, maybe even in your lifetime, to really talk to a renter about the benefits of home ownership and the fact that they have a lot more purchasing power today because of the way interest rates are. So this is a great opportunity to be that educator, and everyone that owns a home, well, not everyone, but almost everyone that owns a home used to rent on their own as well. So most people go through that process at some point. This is a great opportunity. So everybody that's renting, call them up and say, we need to chat. Let's run some numbers. I want you to just know that this is possible. And then when you're ready, we can do it. The other thing is, for everyone that's already a homeowner, what a great opportunity to call everyone and say, hey, I don't know your current mortgage situation. Obviously none of my business, but great time to call your loan officer and refi. And oh, by the way, are you guys thinking about doing any moves yourself? Just education, as Tracy was saying, be the person who educates. But if you just called everybody you knew and offered those two things, whether they're a renter or an owner, boy, you would just forget about business. You will get about every person will be like, wow, thank you so much. That's a great suggestion. Because most people aren't thinking about stuff like that. We think about it because we're in the business, but most buyers, sellers, and renters aren't really they're thinking about their own lives.
Right. And if you take, and just do a survey around, the radius of your office and the apartment communities around, and what is the average apartment rental rate, right?
Yeah.
And then get with your loan officer and say, okay, if this is what their monthly payment is, for rent, what type of home could they afford?
Right.
And what's the interest rate? And then start writing content on that,
Love
about it, post it on your social media. Like, you could own a home. This is what your home could look like in this price point in your area. Or this is what your apartment looks like.
Right.
It's the same payment. These are your write-offs. This is yours. You won't hear somebody screaming through your wall, or somebody flushing the toilet through the wall, or what are all the pain points of living in an apartment versus now this is yours and this is ownership.
It's funny. The idea of when I first bought a property about 15 years ago, I'm sure everyone listening can probably appreciate this when they bought their first place. I had no idea about the tax deduction the windfall of money that was about to befall me, being a homeowner because I was a renter. And then I ended up selling a property, and I've been renting for a few years. I'm actually buying a place right now. And the most exciting part about this place, which is kind of like my dream place, and I should be very excited about the interior. I got to pick out everything. I am very excited. But what I'm really excited about is the interest deduction. And that is something that renters probably don't know about either. So this is a huge thing. And again, tax laws can change and eventually things might be different. But for right now, boy, that is a huge benefit. And even after I bought a property, it wasn't until about a year later till I realized, like, oh, I did not know that was coming. Like, what a wonderful thing. We're so fortunate to live in a country that rewards that. So, that's another great education opportunity.
Yep. And you get to skip the first payment, right? Because you pay your
I remember I remember them saying that to me when this is 15 years ago. I bought a place and they go, so you're not going to, I'm like, so wait, I don't have to pay for a month. They were like, just don't even, I'm like, how does that work? They're like, we're not going to explain it. Just realize you don't have to pay. So yes, that's a huge thing. But again, what we're talking about is education. Any other suggestions you have, and not just necessarily for people struggling today, but just, you're a coach, you're a trainer, what are you telling your agents to do to really grow that business?
It's, if you don't ask, you don't know. Right.
Right.
And
yes.
So even closing with your current clients, or if you meet with someone and they're just not ready, hey, do you happen to know someone who is interested in buying and selling in real estate?
Yeah.
And it's having the conversations. And if you don't have the conversations, then you don't know. Look at all the different contractors in the area. They have business. People want to sell their homes and they need new flooring. Well, they're going to call the contractor first, right?
Right.
So if you have connections with all these contractors, then you already know ahead of time and you develop a relationship with them. And hey, if anybody ever calls you that they need a new roof because they're going to sell their home, or they need new carpet or hardwoods because they're going to be selling their home, or they're fixing their landscape, or whatever it is, there's so many contractors that sellers need prior to getting their home on the market. And it's, if you can have that inventory of contractors that you work hand in hand with, but in return, you're giving them the business back also when people need to have stuff done, then you're going to have a foot ahead of someone else, or they may not know what their next step is. They're just going to look and find an agent that's local because they don't, just like they did their contractor, right? So it's just stepping up and thinking outside the box on so many different, the opportunities are endless.
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah. And you just gave me, I'm a marketing guy, so I'm always thinking, you just gave me about 10 different marketing ideas. And so I'll just share a couple that percolated while you were chatting. Like, think about, like I had to get some work done on my car recently, and this is not real estate related, but it's kind of applicable. So I thankfully know what I believe to be, and obviously Chicago's a huge area, a huge city, but I happen to believe, which has to be one of the best mechanics in the city, I happen to use. And I just got kind of lucky to learn about them. Somebody introduced me to them and they said, these guys are literally the best. I went, yeah, everyone says that. And then I went and used them and they actually are the best. And so I trust them. I tell everybody I know. And I understand, as a realtor, you probably aren't going to call everyone in your sphere of influence and say, I have the very best mechanic in the city. But honestly, like, that's not the worst call in the world either. That's providing value. But think about more from the real estate side. Same thing with contractors, handymen, landscape people, architects, plumbers. I mean, it could be anything. And if you're like, oh my God, I know the very best plumber in the city, that is a lot of good, valuable information, because you're right. Once somebody needs a plumber, they need a plumber, and they go to Google and they try to figure it out, and hopefully they choose somebody good. But if you call everyone in your sphere and said, I have a list of people, these are literally the best people I've ever found. And if you ever need any home improvement stuff, call me. I will connect you, and you can even tell people, I don't benefit directly from that, but I don't want you to have to stress about it. So bring it to me. I will get you through. Boy, I wish I had somebody to call for things like that. I honestly don't. I really don't, even myself. And that would be an awesome resource. So put that resource together. And you know what, if you're like, I don't know who the best plumber is, ask all the realtors that you'll figure out who the best people are.
You can make one post on social media and say, who's your go-to plumber and why? And then your comments will be endless, and then you just narrow it down. And it's, and it's going back to community. And you know, how about next time that plumber does go to one of your clients' homes, you meet them there and you do a Facebook Live with them.
I love
Like,
it.
you know, not only are you going live now on your page, but now you're on their business page and on their personal page. So anyone that is on any of their social media is also going to see you're promoting this business. He's promoting your business, or she. And so it's team effort, you know, and just getting more visibility out there.
Yeah, boy, that is, and that's like the fun part of the job. I think that's like, you know, if you think about how can I keep adding value? I was out to dinner with my girlfriend on Friday and we went to this restaurant we had not ever been to. It was supposed to be one of the best restaurants in the city. And I knew that from its reputation, but I'd never been there. So it was a pretty safe bet because it's on a lot of lists of best restaurants. And we went and it was legitimately one of the best meals I'd ever had. And so I thought, you know, and it doesn't benefit me in any way to mention them on social media because, you know, I mean, that's not what I'm doing it. But we took some pictures and we took pictures of the food. And I'm one of those people that I never post pictures of my food because I'm like, nobody cares. But in this case, the food was so unusual and so cool. And the presentation was so interesting that I was like, hey guys, like we just ate at XYZ restaurant, and I tagged them in the post and I actually posted, I'm like, you got to see this. This is incredible. And you know, the restaurant sent me a message the next day. They saw it. I didn't tell them about it. They were just notified because of Facebook or whatever. And they sent me, they're like, hey, thank you very much. Like right now we're really struggling. And that really helped us. And I was like, no problem. Like,
That's
so
awesome.
the idea of doing a Facebook Live is exactly what you were just saying, just in a different way. So lots of ways to add value. But I guess the point is, guys, find a firm, if you're an agent that actually teaches you these kind of techniques, strategies, and helps you, because anyone, you know, you can hang your license really anywhere. We know that. But at most firms, you know, you're kind of on your own. So find a firm that can actually take good care of you. If you're in the Atlanta area, look up real estate expert advisors. They're the real thing. And Tracy's the real thing. And she's amazing. And she would love to chat with you. And also once the book comes out, we'll promote it for sure. So definitely let us know, because we'll be making sure our listeners know all about it. But Tracy, I am so grateful to you for being on the show. You have provided such incredible value during this like 45 minutes or so. I am so
It's
thankful
already
to
been
you because,
45 minutes.
well, I think so. But 35 to 45 minutes.
Tell us about
Either
that.
way, it was awesome. And on behalf of the listeners and the viewers, we want to thank you because you know, we're so grateful to have found you, and for the information you shared on our show. I promise this is going to be one of our more listened to episodes, just based on the sheer content you provided, which was incredible. And also on behalf of the listeners, we want to thank you as well. Or I'm sorry, on behalf of the listeners, Tracy and I would like to thank everyone and remind them to continue to listen to our show. Tell a friend. That's the only thing that I would love every one of our listeners to do, is think of one other real estate professional that could benefit from listening or viewing this episode with Tracy. Send them a link to the show. Easiest way to do that, find us well, there's two ways. Find us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/keeping it real pod. The second way, if that's not as easy, just go to our website, keepingitrealpod.com. Every episode we've ever done is there. You can send somebody a link and you can listen to all of our episodes right on the website. You don't have to do it through a podcast app. And please, everyone, go visit tracycousino.com. That's TracyCousineau.com. Also, watch her on television on American Dream TV if you're in the metro Atlanta, or if you're in the entire Atlanta area, not just the metro area. And Tracy, thanks so much. And we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.